Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
Wednesday, and all of our guests today brought to you by our title sponsor. It's got the big day coming up on July 6th. Able Auctions, ableauctions.ca. We're joined now by Louie DeBrusk, Sportsnet NHL and Oilers analyst, former NHLer, and father of new Canuck Jake DeBrusk. Louie, thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm doing well, guys. How are you?
Good, very well. It looks like you've got your workout clothes on. Did you recently do the grouse grind? Did I get that right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was last summer. That was a text that I sent to Dan Murphy, kind of saying, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go do this grouse grind," because he kept talking about it, how hard it was, and it's a grind. I'm not going to lie to you. It was good. My wife and I, Cindy, went and did it. And it's a beautiful place, by the way, great place, but it is nature's stairmaster. There's no question about it. That's the way it was described to me before I did it, and I was like, okay, that's exactly what it is. So I'm looking forward to tackling it again, though, the next time I'm in there.
Well, and it was a year ago. I thought it was recently, but you'll be here more often, I would imagine, with Jake in town. Just your reaction to your son signing with the Canucks, Louie.
Yeah, really excited for him. I mean, he went through the process, and he had to go through the process. Vancouver, right from the get-go, was the front runner and a team that really showed a lot of interest in him. So he, obviously was very encouraged by that, and quite frankly, when he looked at the team, that was what really made him interested in the team to begin with, was the players they have already, the direction the team's going under Rick Tocchet, what they're trying to accomplish there, and the identity they're trying to play the game with. So he felt he could step right in and have an impact and jump right in there and support and play that system very well and be an impact player. So that was the number one thing. But he had to go through the process of, figuring out what other teams were interested, what was out there. Sorry. It was his first opportunity at unrestricted free agency, and so he did the due diligence, and in the end, it was Vancouver that he felt was the best fit, obviously the best term, and that's kind of what he was looking for. He wanted a long-term deal. He wanted to settle in, wanted to commit to a team. So he's excited. We're really excited to have him there because he's a lot closer to home. Obviously, love seeing him as a Bruin. He had some great years as a Boston Bruin, original 16, a lot of history in that franchise, and it was wonderful for him to be a part of it. But now it's a new chapter for him, and he's really excited to get it going. And Mama Bear is pretty happy that she's not that far away, so she's looking forward to seeing him a little more often this year.
I bet. Yeah. So what are the Canucks getting in Jake, and can you envision him having chemistry with Elias Pettersson, which a lot of people in Vancouver are hoping for?
I do. You know what, honestly, that's one of the things he looked at. Obviously, centerman down the middle, who potentially could you play with? And Pettersson's name kept coming up, and obviously they're trying to find a winger that can play that 200-foot game with Pettersson, and that's Jake. Jake in that Boston system, and the system that the Vancouver Canucks, in my opinion, are starting to morph into under Rick Tocchet, and a lot of teams in the league are, for good reason. It's a stingy, hard system to play against. It's disciplined and it's structured. But if you have the offensive talent in your lineup, you can capitalize on your chances. And it was good enough last year to win the Pacific Division title. So, when I look at Jake stepping in there, he's a player that came in as an offensive player, but honed his overall game in 7 years in Boston, plays a 200-foot game, is used to going up against the best of the opposition, so he'll help whoever he plays with in that regard. He was up and down the lineup in Boston throughout his career there, played primarily in the top six, but certainly was down in the third and fourth line at times, plays right wing and left wing. He's played with pretty much everybody in the organization, and it seemed like every time he jumped on the line, he made the line better, and that's what he's going to try and do when he goes to Vancouver, obviously. He feels he can step in there and have that impact.
Louie, the Canucks and the Oilers, round two. What did you learn about this Vancouver team? I mean, that was Game 7. They had no Besser. They had no Demko. I mean, what did you learn about the Canucks?
Yeah. Well, they did exactly what they did all year long, and it started with the first two games of the season, guys. They beat Edmonton in both of those, and I covered both of those games. And, I remember talking early on that this team is ready to take a stride. They're ready to take a push forward, and they have the personnel to do it. And not only did you do it at the start of the year, they did it for the entire year. They paced that division. I mean, it moved around a little bit throughout the season, but all in all, they were right there at the top of it for the entire season. They were fighting for that first position, and they were able to finish it off in the end. So what that told me is the way they were playing the game was consistent. They had a plan. They had a team that could buy into it. And we saw what they did in the first round, winning that, and then coming into the second round, having Edmonton down 3-2 in the series. I mean, they had 2 chances to finish them off in that series. And credit Edmonton. I mean, Edmonton's a very good team, too. So, Edmonton and Vancouver, again, I think next year will be teams that people are looking at to make some noise. But Edmonton found a way to get it done in Game 7 in a real hard-fought series, but it could have gone either way. I think that could have been a series that certainly could have gone Vancouver's way, and that's why they feel they're pretty solid in where they are in the transition they want to make and the people they want to bring in that can play that system. And they went out and got a couple more Bruins and Heinett and Forbert that they know can step right in and have an understanding of how to play that tight, grinding, hard hockey that they played in their careers as well. So I think they're building towards that. And as Rick talking, I know that covering him over the course of this year and when he stepped on board last year, one of the things that he kept saying was, we need to be a harder team to play against. We want to be a hard team to play against. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean fighting and hitting. Obviously, physical contact and grinding is part of it, but it's the way you play, the pressure you play with, the fact that you're always in the opponent's grill, and you come at him and with waves of pressure, and you're a disciplined team, and that's kind of what they did through the stretch. So I learned a lot from the fact that this Vancouver team's for real, and they've got some young guys right now that are really taking that next step into their midlife of NHL careers and want to take another step forward and make some noise in the playoffs.
Hey, Louie, got to ask you about the Oilers. My goodness, they had Jeff Skinner, Victor Arvidsson, Adam Henrique takes less to come back. Corey Perry's back. Boy, that forward group is looking a whole lot better.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's pretty impressive how they've been able to get everyone to come back and right now kind of squeeze it in there. They're going to have to do a little shuffling and a little maintenance here down the stretch in the summer. But, I think it's important. They're going to be a mature, older team again with Janmark and Brown signing back. You've got Skinner's been around for a long time and has scored everywhere that he's gone, has been a prolific scorer. And they get him on a real cap-friendly deal at $3 million. Arvidsson, for me, has always been an Energizer bunny. I mean, I know Höglander, I remember talking with Travis Green when Höglander first came on. He said, listen, we're kind of thinking he could be like an Arvidsson. I know Höglander played that way last year and started to find that scoring touch and that grit. He's like a fire hydrant out there, and that's what Arvidsson is. Arvidsson's kind of that original Energizer bunny that goes out there and just kind of gets the job done, has a scoring touch. And, obviously the injuries are one thing that concern you about Arvidsson, but hopefully he can stay healthy in that regard. But what it does is just, again, adds to the depth of Edmonton. They're bringing back a lot of familiar people that understand what they have to do, have played the system that they're trying to implement, and have played it well. And they felt with a little more scoring and the likes of Skinner, I believe, and Arvidsson coming on board, that it just makes them a tougher team to play against and a team that can get the job done a little more effectively.
I have to ask you this, Louie, in that you're a Sportsnet NHL analyst for the Oilers. We just heard from him moments ago on our show. What are the Canucks getting in 6'7" Vincent Desharnais, former Oiler?
You're getting a good guy, number one. You're getting a guy that's had to persevere and work through some stuff to get to where he is today. He doesn't take that for granted. He works hard every day, and he's one of those guys that has that charisma and that feeling when he comes to the rink. He wants to come to play. Excuse me. He plays hard, and he's a nasty guy to deal with. His nickname down the American Hockey League was Seaweed, given to him by Jay Woodcroft and Dave Manson, the coaching staff down there. When you're swimming in the seawater, seaweed just always seems to get a piece of you. Well, that's Vinny Desharnais. At 6'7", he has that reach. You've got two guys now in right-handed Tyler Myers and Vinny Desharnais that take up a lot of space in front of the net. He plays a hard game. He's going to make you pay to stand in front of his goalie, not afraid to get physical and get involved, and an excellent penalty kill. Excellent shot blocker, will pay the price over and over and over again to block shots. So that's what you're getting. You're getting a guy that took a big step last year. He came into the league at the end of 2 years ago, came in last year, played 74 games, I believe is what his total was. But he really worked himself into being a regular in the NHL. And, for me, to see guys take that stride and take that step and be excited about improving in the game, that's Vinny Desharnais. When he was in Providence in college, there was a guy named Zdeno Chara playing for the Boston Bruins, and that's a guy that he watched on a regular basis and tried to emulate his game after. And being that tall, sometimes it takes a little longer to find that maturity, find that stride, and find that game. Well, he's found it. They're getting a good guy. They're getting a guy that's going to be able to blend right into that locker room.
Before we let you go, Louie, does Talkett have to worry about you as a hockey dad?
No. No, yeah, you know what? I've already given Jake kind of an instruction. Said, listen, learn from Talk. Go in there and listen to what he says. And this guy was a great teammate. Rick Talk was one of my favorite teammates. He was a guy that could speak to everybody, and why he's a great coach. And I think why he's had success. And congrats to him on the Jack Adams. I was happy to see him win that. He was a guy that scored 50 goals, won Stanley Cup, fought everybody, so he could speak to everybody. And when he was hanging out with people in the room, it wasn't necessarily always with the top guys. He would come down to our level too and speak with the grunts on the team as well. And that's why everybody liked him so much. He could get along with everybody, and he could speak everybody's language. And I think he does that as a coach as well. And I think it's a guy you can learn from. And when you look at Tocchet's career, the way he kind of grinded and made himself into the player he was, that's motivation, right? That's motivation to say, listen, you can always achieve and get a little bit better. You can always kind of look at things a little bit differently. And I'm hoping he brings out a little bit of that in Jake too, because Jake's worked hard to be that player and try and be a 200-foot player. And I think Talk will help in that degree. So he's not going to have to worry about me. I mean, I don't talk to coaches a whole lot, to be honest, but I'm kind of looking forward to seeing one of my good friends coach my boy.
As a hockey dad, I have to tell you that one of my favorite visuals over the last few years, and we're pretty much done with this interview, Louie, by the way, but I wanted to bring this up. One of my favorite visuals over the last several years was you in the crowd shedding a tear after Jake's first goal with the Boston Bruins.
Yeah.
Great moment.
Yeah, it was a great moment. You know what? It's just one of those moments that you can't really prepare yourself for, but at the same time, you're just so overwhelmed as a family. We were all overwhelmed to be there, to get there on time, to watch the game. It was his first NHL game. It all came together. It doesn't always happen that way in this league. Sometimes it's pretty difficult to make that happen, but when it does, it's a special moment. And that was a special moment that night. One that we've never forgot. One that every once in a while I'll see it come up on my YouTube or Instagram or Twitter feed or somewhere. And every time it brings a mega smile to my face because it brings you right back to that moment. And that's what this game's all about, to be honest with you. It's about moments and why it's such a passionate fan base in every respective city, because it's those moments that are being brought to you every game, every day, that stay with you for a lifetime and, make you who you are. And I remember when I was a kid remembering some of the things, and that'll be one of the things as an adult that stands out to me as one of my favorite moments ever in the game.
Yeah, so special. Louie, we'll get you back on. Thanks so much for this. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay, guys, thanks for having me on. I'm sure I'll be seeing a little more of you this year.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
definitely.
Yeah.